I fell in love and got married to this man who has a daughter named Leela. I want to take full responsibility for her. I want to be the mother that she never had, because to be quite honest with you, her biological mother is an absolute jerk, and she does not know how to raise a kid. Well, it seems that her biological mother is growing more and more obsessed with me. She's jealous, to be honest with you, and there's something I'm going to do about it. Let me share it with you. First of all, I know the title sounds drastic, but hear me out. A bit of a background for you guys. I'm 29, female. My husband's 27, and we live together with his 4-year-old daughter, Leela. I've been in Leela's life for the past 3 years, effectively since she was 1. I've tried to step in and be there for her as a mother figure, especially after some very traumatic incidents with her biological mother, Margaret. I'm not the biological mother, but I feel the weight and love of motherhood every single day. Margaret is something else. A few years ago, she left Leela in a hot car and somebody called CPS. Thankfully, nothing dire happened to Leela, but the situation could have turned very tragic, and my husband subsequently won a custody battle, granting Margaret only 1 visitation day per week. You would think such an incident would be a wake-up call, but it seems it's barely fazed Margaret. Now, I never get into direct confrontations with Margaret. I've met her a few times, but mostly I hear about her through my husband. Every time he goes off to drop Leela off for their once-a-week visit, he returns with a new story of Margaret's antics. From shouting matches in the middle of the street to wild accusations against my husband, it's a whirlwind of drama every time, and it's not just about the dramatic scenes that she creates. Margaret frequently tries to put Leela against me. Well, the subtle hints that she drops like, "Remember, I'm your real mother," are the gifts that she insists Leela should only use at her house. It's clear that she wants to establish some weird territorial claim of Leela. As much as I want Leela to have a relationship with her bio mother, I truly believe Margaret's toxic for her. Leela sometimes returns from her work visits mimicking Margaret's biting tone or using words that she clearly picked up from her. Words like, "Daddy's mean," or "Be quiet." It breaks my heart to see Leela, a bright and happy kid, coming home with these layers of confusion and negativity. Additionally, there's been nights where Leela has had nightmares after her visits. She wakes up crying, and while she can't always articulate what scares her, my husband is a saint through all this. He handles Margaret's attacks with grace and patience, but I can see the toll it takes on him. He confided in me that he's worried about the influence Margaret has on Leela, but he also does not want to rob Leela of her connection to her biological mother. I get it, it's complicated. However, I can't help but feel that Leela would be better off without Margaret in her life. Maybe it's the protective mama bear in me, but I hate seeing the pain and confusion Margaret inflicts directly or indirectly, and as Leela grows older and more impressionable, I fear that Margaret's influence could cause deeper emotional scars. I've gently broached the subject with my husband about possibly seeking a way to limit Margaret's influence or even go for full custody. He's hesitant, and I understand why. It's a drastic step, and legally, it would be a battle. But I can't shake the feeling that it's for the best. We'll keep you updated as we learn more. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's been about 3 months since my last post, and, well, a lot's happened. First, thank you for the support and advice on my last post, and my husband and I took many of your suggestions to heart and consulted with a lawyer about our situation. But before we could make any concrete decisions, things escalated. A few days ago, my husband went to pick up Leela from her weekly visits with Margaret, and what should have been a straightforward pickup turned into a living nightmare. When he arrived, he was met not by Margaret, but by the police. Before he could even ask what was going on, they informed him of allegations of child abuse, showed him fabricated marks on Leela's body, presumably made by Margaret herself, and proceeded to handcuff him then and there. I received the call from my devastated husband as he was en route to the police station. My mind was a blur. My heart raced, and I could scarcely believe Margaret would stoop to this level. Now, before anybody jumps to conclusions about the quote evidence, here's some context. A couple nights before the visit, Leela had thrown a tantrum at dinner, reminiscent of Margaret's own infamous fists. In her fury, She shattered her plate on the floor, and my husband, like many parents, gave her a gentle swat on the behind and sent her to her room. This is the first and only time he's ever laid hands on her. We had a heartfelt talk with Leela afterwards and believed the matter would be resolved. Could this have been the incident Margaret twisted into an abuse story? Leela's still so young and impressionable, and it's feasible Margaret exploited her emotions from that night. I rushed to the police station, desperate to get my husband out. The night was agonizingly long, and he was not released until the following morning. And here's where it gets even crazier. Upon our return home, guess who was waiting for us? That's right, Margaret, with Leela in tow, and apparently she has plans with friends and did not want to deal with Leela anymore. The audacity of it left me speechless, but that's not all. Later that evening, with Leela safely back home with us, she finally opened up. Tearfully, she confessed that Margaret had coached her on what to say to the police, instructing her to lie about her father hitting her. My heart shattered hearing this from our little girl, and it was a mix of rage towards Margaret and deep sadness for Leela, who was manipulated into this web of lies. Throughout the day, my mind raced with thoughts of retribution, of ensuring Margaret faced the consequences of her actions, and it was a tumultuous mix of anger, pain, and a fierce protectiveness over my family. But it's become crystal clear to me. Margaret needed to be out of our lives, not just for our sanity, but for Leela's safety and well-being. It's been a tough journey, but now more than ever, I believe cutting ties with Margaret is not only right, but crucial. I'll keep you updated. Updates number 2. Me again. A month after all the incidents with Margaret's false accusations, and the drama has not ceased. My husband and I immediately sought out a top-notch custody lawyer who relayed everything. The false accusations, Leela's confession, and the general havoc that Margaret has wreaked in our lives. Our lawyer was very frank. Not only could we have a solid case for full custody, but Margaret, with her baseless reports, had also put herself at significant legal risk. Making false reports, and as it turned out, can come with substantial consequences. I won't lie. Upon hearing this, I felt an overwhelming mixture of emotions. A chance for justice, though. For Leela's sake and for our peace of mind, this bit of information is a spark to me. I began documenting everything. I started recording any interaction or word exchanges with Margaret, and I wanted to be prepared this time. Armed with evidence, not out of revenge, but for protection and to ensure justice would be served. A few days later, Margaret's visitation day arrived, and as she picked up Leela, I casually mentioned that our little girl was outgrowing her clothes and would appreciate some new ones. Margaret's response was nothing short of spiteful, but I kept my cool, brushing it off, and later in the day, in need of some retail therapy, I found myself at our local mall. As I pulled into the parking lot, my heart nearly stopped. Margaret's car was parked in a secluded corner, and inside, alone with just a tiny window crack for ventilation, was Leela. A chilling déjà vu gripped me. Was Margaret really repeating her past mistakes, leaving her child in a potentially dangerous situation? Adrenaline pumping, I immediately called the police. This was not just about getting back at Margaret, it was about Leela's safety, and when officers arrived, they assessed the situation, and I stepped in to take custody of Leela right there, avoiding the involvement to CPS. Margaret was arrested for child endangerment. The irony of the situation was not lost on me because just a month ago, my husband was the one in handcuffs due to her deceit, and now it was her turn to face the consequences of her actions. I phoned my husband with the news, and he was shocked. This was the break that we needed, and with Margaret's arrest and our growing dossier of evidence, we felt more confident about our chances in the upcoming custody battle. It was clear we were on path to ensuring Leela's safety and well-being. Leela was understandably shaken by the ordeal, seeing her mother arrested and distressed, but by the end of the day, when she was safely nestled between her dad and me, I could see the relief in her eyes. We felt closer and a bit determined to protect our little girl from any further harm. We're gearing up for the fight of our lives, for Leela. But, well, with evidence on our side and the truth of our allies, I believe justice will prevail. By the way, Leela has been seeing a therapist to help process the recent events. We want to ensure she remains emotionally strong and healthy. Stay tuned for the more updates. Update number 3. Hey guys, back again, and woo, have these past few months been a whirlwind. When I last left off, we were gearing up for potentially a custody battle, and it's going to be for Leela. Now I'm over the moon to share that we've officially won full custody. Not only has Margaret lost her visitation, but she's also no longer legally recognized as a guardian. The tides have changed so significantly that I've begun the process of officially adopting her. Well, the once imagined dream has become a fast-approaching reality, and my heart swells with joy, imagining the day when Leela would not only be my daughter and my spirit, but also in-law. Recognizing the emotional toll this battle's brought on me, I just feel so good. Leela's been attending therapy, like I said before, and it's been now for the past few weeks to help her navigate some emotions that she's having a hard time overcoming. The laughter, the shared moments, the whispered secrets during bedtime, all these moments have grown rich. Well, as for Margaret, let me tell you about her now. Her downfall was swift. After leaving Leela unattended in the car, she spent several days in jail. Having nobody to bail her out and learning that she'd forever lost her rights to Leela was the catalyst that sent her spiraling. She has just been in and out of jail since, and a shadow of her former self, consumed by chaos. Part of me does pity her for some weird reason, but one night, as I laid in bed, it dawned on me how things have played out, and, well, I thought in my head, I'm the reason Margaret's now suffering so much. I'm the reason that she lost full custody because she decided to leave little Leela again in a hot car, and I'm the one who found it. So, I don't know if you would call that revenge or karma or what it would be, but all I know is Leela's safe. And the only question I have for you guys is, am I the a-hole for taking everything that Margaret loves and basically making her homeless and getting full custody of little Leela? Drop your comments down below. Guys, this was a wild one. I want to know your thoughts about this drama. Let's talk about some of the comments from the original post now. I have 5 comments for you, and we'll talk about which one makes the most sense. All 5 of these comments got a lot of attention. Here's comment number 1. Wow, the lengths you went to protect Leela is honestly admirable. Margaret just gives off those druggy hipster mom vibes. Somebody who probably can't even look after herself, let alone a child. You're definitely not the a-hole. You stood your ground and did what any caring parent would have done in your shoes. Comment number 2. Everyone sucks here. Yeah, Margaret sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, but that does not mean you get to play God and determine if she sees her own flesh and blood. I'd be devastated if somebody made sure I could not see my own child. Honestly, your actions sound like they accelerated her downward spiral. Everyone's at fault here, and poor Leela's caught in the crossfire of this disastrous event. Comment 3. My heart breaks for Leela, the real victim in all this growing up drama. While no one's really the a-hole, I wish things would have handled a bit more maturely. It's such a relief that she's getting therapy to cope with everything. Adults should act like adults and not drag innocent children into their dirty mess. Comment 4. You're the a-hole. It sounds like you're doing everything in your power to keep Margaret away from Leela. Ever wondering what the story would look like from her perspective? Every story has 2 sides. Final comment, guys, and remember, let me know your thoughts about these comments downstairs in our comment section. Final comment says, I truly feel for Leela in all this, and I'm glad that you decided to take actions to pull her out of a potentially harmful environment, but I have this nagging feeling that this is not the end of Margaret and Leela's life. If things don't turn worse for her, which, by the way, I hope they don't, because I don't want to see anybody suffer. She might resurface later, though. But no, you're not the a-hole for safeguarding your family. Just be prepared for what the future might hold. Guys, I agree with that comment the most because I don't think this is the last we'll hear from Margaret, and if there's any updates, you guys will be the first to know. But there's still one more story in today's video. It's a similar story to one we've seen before. We have another lunch thief. This one involves roommates, and OP is having her cookies stolen every single night, and she specifically tells her roommates, hey, I have to bring this batch of cookies to work tomorrow. There's a work party involved, and I need these cookies. So guys, let's find out who's stealing her cookies. Today's final story right now. Back in college, I shared an apartment with 3 other roommates, Lena, Kai, and Jake. We all got along fairly well, except for one problem. Somebody was stealing food. Not just any food, but specifically my homemade cookies. I took great pride in baking, often experimenting with unique flavors, and everybody loved it. But every morning I find my cookie jar with a few less cookies than the night before. I've already told them not to touch them. At first I just shrugged it off, thinking maybe I miscounted or ate more than I remember. But then the entire batches started disappearing overnight, and I knew I had a cookie thief. Now, the logical thing would have been to confront my roommates, but I knew if I did, the culprit would simply deny it. So I decided on a plan to catch the thief red-handed, or should I say red mouth. I baked a new batch of cookies, my specialty chocolate chips, and I made sure to tell them I needed every one of these cookies for a work event tomorrow. Please don't eat them. To the casual observer, these look like my regular batch, but they had a special ingredient, an excessive amount of ghost pepper extract. I'd previously used this extract in spicy dishes and knew just a drop was enough to set somebody's mouth on fire. I left the cookies in the unusual spot and went to bed. The anticipation kept me awake, and about 2 a.m., I heard noises from the kitchen. You won't believe it. A muffled gasp followed by frantic footsteps. Jumping out of bed, I walked to the kitchen to find Jake. Eyes watering, face red, chugging milk straight from the carton. "Jake," I said, feigning surprise. "What's wrong? Too spicy for you?" He coughed and just said some things in between desperate gulps of milk, managing to say, "Why would you do this?" "To catch a thief," I smirked. "I told you not to mess with my cookies I was bringing for work tomorrow. Jake, all you had to do was ask for some cookies and I would have made you a whole batch, but instead you go behind my back, right?" He sheepishly nodded, and the fiery burn of his mouth serving as an immediate karma for his nightly thefts. The next day I baked a regular batch of cookies and left a note beside them. For everybody, especially Jake. No tricks, just treats. There was laughter and a bit of good-natured ribbing, and Jake formally apologized, promising never to take what wasn't his again. From that day on, the cookie thief was no more. But I want to know, has anybody ever had this same problem with roommates? Taking your food or your leftovers that you leave in the fridge? How would you go about combating it? Because I know a lot of people will probably be rough on me and say that I went a bit too far with the hot food and fiery extract. So, give me a little bit of advice. What would you do if somebody was stealing your food? So we finally found out who stole those cookies. Guys, I just have one question for you. If you've ever had somebody steal your food, maybe from work or somebody at your house or maybe an ex-roommate, girlfriend, who was it and what did you do to stop them? Thank you for joining me on today's revenge story. My name's Mr. Reddito. This is Mr. Reddito's Revenge. I'll catch you guys tomorrow, and remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!